Okay, the first form that we're going to discuss is the organization form. Once you have decided which topic you are going to use, then it is best that you decide what you're going to use throughout your essay. So, depending on which topic, depends on if you're going to use first person or third person. And then you need to decide what information you're going to include in your introduction. Remember, we talked about introductions. We talked about the importance of a lead-in. We've also talked about the importance of having a thesis. And so make sure that you are thinking about those two things as you are thinking about your writing process. You have a discussion board in particular for both of those, your thesis and your writing process. So make sure you are actively thinking about these things and sharing them with one another. The first two things to think about, of course, as I said, with the lead-in is the first thing is to think about what do you want to call attention to. If you're writing a letter to your grandchild, then you can say, as I look back over my life, do you find that interesting? Or are you going to say something startling? Are you going to give her a statistic about the likelihood of women succeeding in the career field you're going to? Think about how you're going to introduce this narrative. Okay? Really think about that. And with your introductory paragraph, think about what information you're going to include. Okay? As you start to develop this, think about your thesis. Are you going to have that implied thesis that we discussed, where it is wide open? You can discuss just about anything. Or are you going to have this closed thesis that also has an essay map? You can see the two examples here. They tell you the 3 books. And so you know in each paragraph what book they're going to use. As I've said before, make sure your thesis is not an announcement. Make sure it is not a fact. Make sure it has an opinion, but not an emotional one, as we discussed in the past weeks. So make sure you think about your thesis. And if you like, you can create multiple theses. You can make multiple theses if you have more than one. Okay? So as you are preparing for your body paragraphs, once you've figured out your thesis, you can do a couple different things. You can list the different roles for your obituary. You can look at the different events, or you can look at the books. And of course, you can use your pre-writing techniques in this section. You can just list things. You can start looping. And the special thing about looping is if you start to write and you focus on one thing and you notice that thing may seem interesting, then you can definitely use that to start the next set of information. So make sure that you are thinking about that. Okay, so I want you guys to think of what you are thinking, and so that way we can start to create some different ideas for your pre-writing and your body paragraphs, so you can figure out which one you have the most information for. Okay, the biggest thing is sometimes we like topics, but sometimes we don't have enough information to make them go forward. As you are deciding which topic you are going to write about and placing into the chat box, I'm going to continue. The thing about your conclusion is, depending on your topic, depends on how your conclusion should come together. With your conclusion, sometimes it is important to summarize, sometimes it is important to draw conclusions. If you are explaining your life in terms of obituary, then you don't need to summarize. You've essentially done that. So it's more important that you draw a conclusion. And what that means is what people should learn from your life and your experience, particularly with topic 1, and how the roles that you played had an impact on those around you. That's how you should summarize topic 1. With topic 2, okay, you can summarize, especially if you have a lot of different plans in terms of education and career. Then it may be okay to summarize, but it depends on how much you decide to talk about. So with that one, you can decide something a little different. You can do either or, but the same thing needs to happen. If you do summarize, you still need to draw conclusions and say what lessons you learned from this experience. If you decide to talk about the pandemic and part of your education, explain how that has impacted your education and how you think it'll impact it further in the future. You can think about how not only that experience affected your life, but how that helped shape your career and the things that you decided to do and the difference that it made in your life. So think about all those things when you are drawing your conclusion if you choose topic 2. If you decide to do topic 3 with the books that changed your life, then of course, if you're going to summarize the books in some sense or summarize how each one had a different thing or effect on you, then that's fine. Or you can be clever and create something different by doing a lead out. Same thing as you do with the lead in. You can use a quote from the last book or one of the books that you felt of all the 3 impacted you the most, and then use that to draw your conclusion from, and then talk about the experience in the book and how it paralleled and how that book in some sense is timeless and how it is important not only for you to read that, but also the impact that it'll have on future lives as well as your life. Okay, so that one is a little unique in that you can use those quotes from it. And of course, you can use quotes in your educational journey if you have something special. If you like the motto of Southwest, you can think about all those things you can incorporate to make this more of a story.